You're listening to an IOE podcast.
Powered by UCL Minds.
Welcome to the ECF Staffroom. I'm Elaine Long.
And I am Mark Quinn.
We are programme leaders for the UCL Early Career Teacher Development Programme. Why are we in the staff room? We are here because this is where the best professional learning conversations always take place. This is where problems can be aired bluntly and where solutions can be explored.
Over the course of this series, we will hear the voices of different colleagues as they come into the ECF staff room. We will hear from early career teachers themselves and from the mentors and induction tutors who support them. We will talk about all things ECF, the challenges and the joys. So why don't you enjoy a coffee with us, perhaps even grab a biscuit and sit down to half an hour of ECF staff room chat. Welcome to the ECF staff room. Saiqua Zaneb and Tessa Blair and Lara Boyer. We are actually in the Mulberry and Bigland Green Centre dressing room. So if the sound's a bit different, that's why. We're all of these people, Tessa and Lara and Saiqua, are all part of the East London Teaching School Hub. But we're still in the staff room. You know, we've got traditions in our staff room, and one of the traditions is that we offer you a nice drink, coffee, a tea, whatever else you might want. So let's go around the room. What would you like, Saiqua?
Coffee, please, black, no sugar.
That's the best way.
Cup of tea for me, please.
What with?
Just a bit of milk.
Oh,
that's a touch of milk.
That's disgusting. that's impossible to drink that. Tessa?
Coffee and milk, please. And I definitely have a biscuit.
Well, and are you offering the biscuits?
I have brought some biscuits with me.
Well, we'll have some of those. I know there were some nice croissants we didn't eat at lunchtime, so we can go back for those as well.
So we're already excited about you being here, mainly because you bought biscuits for us. So we can tell you're going to be good guests already. But we know our listeners are going to be wondering about why we're in the staff room together. And they'll want to know a bit about you and what an average day is like for you. So Saiqua, could we start with you, please?
So my name is Saiqua Zaneb, as Mark has said. I am an assistant head teacher at an inner London girls' school, Central Foundation Girls. My day is hectic. So I am an induction lead. I lead on the ITT, so it's dealing with ECTs, dealing with mentors, dealing with students, dealing with staff, with different things. So my day is never the same. I have to say, there's always something new and something exciting. Yeah, that's me.
So that explains why you might need to drink so much coffee, I think, because you're wearing so many different hats. Lara, could you introduce yourself for the listeners, please?
Yes, so I'm Lara and I work at Mulberry Academy, Shoreditch, where I'm an assistant head teacher, and I am responsible for everything to do with teacher training, and that also includes the early career teacher induction programme. And I'm also in charge of the health system there, so a pastoral lead there. And I do lots of other things too, as one does as a member of SLT. And my day is very busy. Lots of meetings, observations as well, feedback to colleagues. I teach as well, duties. I mean, I wouldn't want to say too much. I wouldn't want to put anyone off. It is incredibly rewarding, and it's nice to get to know our students and hear about them and see them in events as well and enjoying their time. So there are lots of positives to what can be an incredibly busy day.
Thank you, and we're really grateful that you've managed to make some time for us in that busy day. Tessa, can you tell us a bit about your role, please?
Hi, so I'm Tessa Blair. I'm the Deputy Director of the East London Teaching School Hub, and I lead the strands around initial teacher education, the early career framework and appropriate body services. So really exciting role in terms of thinking about that early career teacher phase, really important part of a teacher's career. And it's an exciting role because I'm working at a scale I've never worked at before. So I'm used to having the sort of role Saiqua and Lara describing, where you might be supporting professional learning across a school or a small trust of schools. But now I find myself working with, hundreds of schools and across a region. And that gives me brilliant opportunities each day to learn about their context and the things that are affecting their experiences within schools. So talking to different school leaders and of course the ECT and mentor participants, the range of facilitators we've got. We have 29 different school leader facilitators on our ECF programme. Saiqua and Lara admitted to say that's also part of their day job as well. Really pleased that Saiqa's a mentor facilitator on the ECF programme.
I do love
and
it.
Lara's an ECT facilitator. And yeah, they bring so much to the programme, and we've really ensured that our programme is rooted in that local expertise and grounded in the practice of working in East London schools.
Thank you. And we're really excited about this podcast because we've got every level involved in the ECF. So that's quite interesting because we've got school level, delivery partner level, and lead provider level as well.
And we're here because you organised this conference for your induction tutors today, Tessa. So interested to know what you were hoping to get out of the conference, how you settled on the themes of today's conference.
Yeah. So this came last year. This is our second Induction Tutor Forum, and it came out of a desire to really think about how could we have a real impact in terms of ensuring the programme achieved the intentions we all, it sets out in terms of the policy intentions, and who are the people that were really important. And initially, we toyed with like head teachers. We need to get the head teachers in the room. They're the people. And then we said, no, it needs to be the mentors in the room. And then more and more and more as I went through that first year of the programme, it really became clear to me how fundamental induction tutors were as the leaders of professional learning in the school, and really ensuring that quality mentoring is happening, that the ECT's experience on a day-to-day basis is the best it can be, connecting them with colleagues within the school so that they see themselves as part of a genuine culture of professional learning. And actually it was those colleagues that we needed to build relationships with. We need to understand what the factors that are affecting the implementation of the programme at that school level, and ensure that they could do the best job they could in making this happen at a school level. So our intentions really were to bring together those induction tutors as really key people in terms of the programme success, and give an opportunity for learning within that group. We're really lucky in Tower Hamlets and Hackney. We've got fantastic school cultures, lots of high performing schools, a real commitment to quality professional learning. And so it's about tapping into that expertise in those schools and sharing it. Because people found solutions. In that first year, it wasn't ideal conditions for implementation.
No.
There was no lead-in time. We're in the context of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Induction tutors in schools had to go with it. They had to find solutions. And, as a profession, that's what we do. We find solutions. We make things happen. And we wanted to learn, what had schools done to support the implementation of the ECF in their schools that was having an impact. Ensure that every induction tutor had the guidance they needed to be able to have their role in schools, but also to see themselves as important people in the implementation and in the leadership of the programme at a school level and beyond, and so it's about creating that professional community of induction tutors and sort of supporting them and tapping into their experiences. And the theme started off last year was really around implementation, drawing on obviously the EF guidance and sort of the lack of lead-in, the lack of prepare time, actually, and thinking about how do we prepare for year 2. And we've kept with that theme because I think it is really important as we scale up to cohort 3. It's a process, not an event, implementation. But also we tagged in the theme this year around wellbeing and retention, going back to those original policy intentions of the ECF, which I think is really key, that we're becoming mindful of what we're actually trying to achieve through all of this. And also trying to take on, to be honest, tackle head on some of the misconceptions around the ECF and the limitations. So a theme last year was around agency. How can we ensure the ECF supports agency for ECTs? And this year it was around wellbeing and retention, because I want everyone on our programme to see the flexibilities available. I really wanted to showcase the fantastic wellbeing charter that UCL have created. Because my concerns are that if schools don't understand the opportunities for flexibility, contextualisation, and make it work at a school level, and that requires those induction tutors to do that, people will opt out of this and they will go to school-based routes or core induction programme routes, and we'll lose some of the impact we could have. So it was around, if I'm very honest, I thought this year we'd have more schools opting out of our programme. I thought by this point some schools will be saying, we've been through 2 years, we can do this ourselves now. we haven't had a single school tell us that that's the case. But I think we do need to always be mindful of, we've got to continue to talk about the benefits of this and the impact it can have in terms of those priorities.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think we might all have assumed that there might be that drift of schools away from a full induction program, a facilitated program, to one that they can manage more themselves. And in a way, that might be a healthy sign for some of the schools which have the capacity for that. But though you set up very ambitious targets for yourself for today's conference, and of course, Lara and Saiqua, you are not only facilitators, you're also induction tutors in your school. So you're the target audience today, partly. So what did you get out of today? What Tessa hoped you'd get out of today? What were your main takeaways? Lara, you can go first.
Yeah, I think we were in a really privileged position. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and others who were leading, for instance, the round table activities where we were sharing what has and will support successful implementation of the ECT induction program. And even from leading those discussions, I found that I was learning from others as well. And so I think what I took away from it is that it doesn't matter how experienced you are, we can all learn and continue to learn from each other. And that was really powerful.
Yeah. Saiqua?
I loved the conference today. One of the things that Tessa talks about in the East London Teachers School Hub is collegiality and working with our peers and learning from our peers. And I think it gave us that real opportunity to talk to one another about opportunities within the ECF, challenges within the ECF, and how we would overcome them, and have real conversations with each other, and actually have those very, very clear messages, because that was one of the key themes around what are our core beliefs when we're delivering the ECF. What are we saying? How are we communicating that within our schools, to other ECTs, to other people, about what the ECF is about? Do we believe in it as individuals, or are we just taking it on as we have to do this? And is that in our messaging? Because often your messaging is what your self-beliefs say that it is. And if you don't believe in something properly, your messaging is going to be quite negative. And I took that on board. Last year, there was something that was said in one of the MPQTL briefings last year, and I took that on board and took that away to the school with me. And I did start to look at the ECF in a lot more detail, and think about, well, what are my messages that I want my ECTs to have about this? I want them to ignore all of the things that the media are communicating, all of the negativity that other schools breed, and I want them to look at this as an opportunity. I liked some of the things that was said. The program is a guidebook, not a rule book, and I'm going to use that phrase. I think I did love the Wellbeing Charter. I'm going to laminate it and put it in all of the ECT offices, because I think it gets lost in the messages. And they need to see we have their wellbeing at the heart of this. It is a challenging program, but if it wasn't challenging, we wouldn't be getting the professionals that we want to come into the profession. That's the whole point of having a challenging program. We want to attract professionals into this profession, and we want them to come in and feel intellectual curiosity and want to engage with the research and become innovative. And this gives them the opportunity to do that. And I think that messaging has got lost. And as professionals, as induction leads, we're going away from today, we're going to be reiterating those messages again and saying those things. How many times can I say messages? But that's one of the key things. And just talking to other induction leads was really, really positive. I really enjoyed that.
I think it's really important, isn't it, to remember we talk a lot about the communities that we put our ECTs in and put our mentors in, but actually I think what was interesting today is that we've got induction tutors who are seeing themselves as part of that community as well. And many of them talked about how the other colleagues in their school are important to this as well. So if you're an ECT working in a department, it's not just your mentor you need to be learning from, learning with. It's the other teachers, along the same corridor that you want to.
I take that on board completely, because I was sitting there last year, and Tessa was, and this was the first time I was sitting there with this induction forum, and Tessa was talking about taking all of these things back to your governors, back to the teachers, and back to the SLT. And I thought, that's what I need to do. Nobody in my school knows what this is about. I have to educate them. I have to tell them. And the first thing I did when I went back is I said to my head teacher, can I have a governor's morning and invite the governors in and speak to them about ITT and the changes and the impact that this will have, and get them to speak to my ECTs, get them to speak to my mentors, because actually once they see the power of what we're trying to achieve here and how this will help support us and what we need to put into place, it will actually help. And I think that was a really powerful time. And then I went and I actually got them to do a self-study from the ECF, and then I repeated that with my SLT team. So I introduced the ITT program and the ECF program, and I made them read one of the self-studies, and I said, right, this is one of the ones that they're engaging with. Let me know your thoughts. And and it was like, wow, this is the level of things that they're engaging with. So we need to have different expectations, and we need to think differently. And it was really, really, really powerful. And I thought, oh, this, and I took that while I was sitting there. That was the spark, and I've got other sparks that I've taken from this time's one that I'm going to start off in September. But I think these things are important. These conferences are really important to have that.
One thing you talked about, both of you, actually, was the contribution around that relational resilience. I think that really reinforced the importance of seeing yourself as part of that community. And we want our ECTs to be nested, don't we, in really positive, powerful, professional communities. And the mentors are part of that, the induction tutors are part of that. But their role in some ways is to create those networks that will last beyond the ECF programme. So they've got 2 years, which is great, but we want them to be set up, don't we, for continuous professional learning. And that's often informal, and it's often colleague to colleague peer learning, and rather than seeing themselves as isolated. So it's great that people sort of see that, I think.
Saiqua, I was also lucky enough to be sat on a table with you today where you were discussing with other induction tutors what you do to support mentors' understanding of the ECF in your school. And I wondered if you could just talk to that a bit, because that was one of my sparks as well.
So I last year, I'm going back to last year again, because when I was sitting there, I was thinking, oh my God, my role as an induction lead is actually to support my mentors as well. It's not just my ECTs, because I know when I did the old framework, it was very much about the NQTs, getting them passed, getting their folders of evidence, moving towards those final standards. And there is a difference in emphasis with the ECF framework. We have that whole focus on mentor development, and I thought, oh, I'm not doing that. And much like some of the teachers that were the induction leads that were in the program today, oh, we're not doing that. And I thought, no, that has to change. So I looked at the program just to familiarize myself with it, a module program, and did something that I'd seen Tessa do in one of the induction drop-ins, which is go through and decode the program. And then I had a mentor drop-ins, which I organised and decoded the program with them, and said, well, what opportunities do we have? Where are the struggles going to be? How can we have this in alignment with what you're doing? I also asked them to log their mentor meetings, and I can see what standards they're working on and any themes that are emerging in terms of their development or the ECT's development. I can then pick on and say, right, we need to look at sequencing in lessons, or we need to look at behaviour patterns, and I can support them that way. So it's about looking at working with the ECF and the training and seeing how we can support them and what we can do, but being mindful of time. So often I have to bribe them with like cake and biscuits and coffee and tea, but it's an opportunity for all mentors to sit together. But also I know when their mentor meetings are happening because I've asked them to log it. And I know it sounds like I'm monitoring a lot, and it's not about that. It is about support. It is about knowing when their mentor meetings are and just dropping in and saying, hi, how's it going? How's it all going? You know, I noticed on your mentor notes, blah, 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 blah. So I'm engaging with the conversation. I'm part of that journey with them. And I think sometimes they feel a bit more empowered, or, you know, it's not just us on our own, because originally it was a bit isolating because it was just the mentor and the mentee, and they felt like it was just them going through this process. And as the induction lead, I was just coming in with my tick board, doing my observations, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But also looking at the mentor logs, looking at observations, listening to mentors, having those drop-ins, it gave me an idea of well, these mentor and mentees are they're quite strong in their relationship. This mentor and mentee need a bit of development. Let's pair them together and help them to develop together. So having like 4 of them in a group, holding group mentor sessions, so they can learn from each other and they can develop ideas. because we need to invest in them. It's the mentors, they're the cogs, they're the things that help everything to happen, and the ECTs are where the magic happens. So it's really important that we invest in them, and that's what I took away.
And actually, if I could just add to that, something that we introduced about a year ago at Mulberry Academy Shoreditch in recognition of the role of the mentor and their importance is we've done that through performance management, which is quite unique. So that's something that we've done. But very much like you said, you know, for us, it's a lot of it is around communication. So before the end of the year, I meet with the mentors who I know will be mentoring ECTs the following year, those who are staying with us. And, you know, I give them the background, give them an introduction to the induction program in terms of, you know, what does it look like for the ECT, but also what does it look like for them. And I do the same thing with our new ECTs who are joining the school. For instance, when they come to the induction day, I will do a presentation to them just so that they can see what it looks like. And then again, I meet them again in September. And again, we go through this again. And it's just sort of reinforcing, embedding what the program looks like, what they're going to get out of it. But for me, it's the success for me has been around communication. It's been key. And the other thing that we do as induction leads is we meet with our ECTs termly. Yeah. Before we do the progress reviews or we complete the reports. And that time has been absolutely crucial, really, because while you're meeting the ECT and giving them a voice, because it's important they have a voice in this program too, and talk about, you know, how they're doing but it's also you're finding out about their entitlements as well, and you're asking them about how the mentor meeting's going. And sometimes it's through that conversation that you are picking up on perhaps the odd mentor meeting has been missed. And you need that time. And it's from there that then you would be able to sort of speak to the mentor and kind of, you know, find out what's going on. And very often it's something very simple, but it's having that opportunity to speak to the ECT, which is very important. And the mentors, I mean, we talk to each other all the time. We're always having informal conversations. I get them involved in observations because I think they know their ECT really well. They have that knowledge and understanding of their ECT. So it's really good for them to be part of that. And it's really good CPD for them as well, to be in the room as well and observing. So I think it's all about communication. And I think we're in a really fortunate position, Saiqua and I, because we're members of SRT, we're able to raise awareness around the programme, around the table. And so for us, that's a real advantage.
Yeah, I agree. As a member of SLT, I think it's a real advantage because it's an opportunity to say, I'd like SLT line managers to talk to the heads of faculty and find out how their mentors are doing. If any support is needed, can that be fed back to me via this table? Okay. So actually what you're doing is you're creating a community around the ECT and the mentor to support them. And it is very, very powerful because everyone then feels like they're involved, and it takes away this whole I'm the mentor, it's all on my shoulder workload. It's not. It's about making sure things are happening that are supposed to be happening, but making sure that we're offering the right support when it's needed and that they're not alone. They are part of our school community and we have a responsibility to them. Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think that the when we have the one-to-ones, I have check-ins in the first half term with all of my ECTs. I think they're really important. And I have the 1 hour meetings as well. And I really, really have enjoyed sitting down with the ECTs, not just talking through teaching standards, but saying, okay, well, what have you done here? What have you done? How did this develop you? What would you like to do? Is there anything you'd like to see? And making those opportunities available. I think those, and it's very powerful to have that transparency because it builds trust, which is important on the programme, I think.
It's really interesting. What I can hear from both of you as you're speaking, there's a real sense of pride and enjoyment in what you do, because actually it's that excitement of developing others and seeing the impact. And also there's a real danger, I think, as an induction tutor in a school, that your to-do list could just be huge, because let's be honest, the mechanics of it and all the different portals and registering feels like quite a lot, but it sounds like what you've quite skillfully done is made it part of the day-to-day culture of the school, so everyone's involved, and you're very humble about that, but that will have taken a huge amount of proactive effort from you, and I think that advice is very useful for other induction tutors listening. I'm going to move the topic on a little bit because when we were having lunch, we were lucky enough to see and look through lots of the practitioner inquiries on the wall and the ECT's presentations of those. That was really exciting and confirmed for us what we already know, that practitioner inquiry can have a huge impact on ECTs in schools, and it's a professional learning activity that they really enjoy and adds to their sense of valuing professional learning and adds to their sense of self-efficacy. And it's really nice when they can share that with other colleagues in their school. Mentors obviously play a huge role in that, and the mentor meetings during their practitioner inquiry are really important to make sure they're on the right track, because although they're given a great deal of autonomy in this, they still need that challenge and that level of direction. Can you give us any advice on how induction tutors can approach that in schools to make sure that those mentor meetings are happening well?
I think in the first instance, it's important for you as an induction tutor to get your head around what the inquiry project should look like. I have to say it was one of my most enjoyable parts of the ECF. I mean, all the other parts of the ECF are good fun, but the inquiry project and just watching the mentors and the mentees go through it, that was on another level. It was, they were engaging in professional learning, they were going to the research, and then they were analysing their own practice, and it was one key area of their practice that they were looking at. And at first it was this overwhelming, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So I ran a workshop for them, with them, to talk about, well, these are the different types of inquiry, this is what is expected, to give them that time to reflect and think. And then a joint one with their mentors to try and get to grips with what is it that they're looking at, what is it that we can actually achieve in this time. And it was really interesting to see, because the mentors became invested in the inquiry project, and organically they started to do their own inquiry projects alongside their mentors, so they were looking at similar things together.
Genuine co-inquiry you talk about in terms of the mentoring model, educative mentoring.
And it was interesting to see that, and I was thinking, oh my word, this is actually real.
You say it's organic, but I'm not sure that's the quite right word, because okay, it might be organic, but you have to lay the soil in the
you have
first
to
place,
facilitate it. You're right. Yeah.
So can you shed any light on that? What is it you're creating so that kind of organic growth can take place?
So you give them, you talk about coming up with the inquiry question and making sure it's feasible, and you do that together as a mentor mentee, and then you support as an induction lead. You help them develop that, you help them tweak that, you then talk to them about what support is needed, but you drop into their meetings to help to say, well, do you need to do some student voice? Do you need to go and look at other subjects? What is it that you need in order to develop this? And you create time within the year, because they're meeting their ECTs every 2 weeks. So you look at the cycle and you think, when can I meet them together as a group? Right. So we can share their ideas and you can bounce off each other. These are the challenges I'm having. My ECT question, my inquiry question has failed. Okay, it's okay to fail. You can tweak it slightly, or you can change it if it's not the right question. And often, I think that was why the first 2 cycles were powerful, because getting the question right was really important. What is the inquiry? And I remember one of my ECTs, he said to me, I failed. And I said, no, we don't fail. It's research. We don't fail. We learn from it. What is it that's gone wrong? Right. Now, how can we change it in order for you to see success and take something away with it? And then he went away second time round, tweaked it again. And then the third question was actually the one that he was like, this is actually what I wanted. This is what I wanted to see. I just couldn't get it right the first time. And it was interesting. It was really good for them to do the 2 half cycles in order to be prepared to do the full cycle the third time.
Just so that people understand.
Oh, sorry.
So the 2 half cycles are about the exploratory inquiries that we do.
Developing the question and then doing some research.
That's right. So in the first 2 modules of the second year, we do those 2 short inquiries, and then the longer inquiry, which we call an exploratory inquiry, which is where you're saying your colleague actually found their feet with that one.
The evaluative.
What do I call it? Did I get it wrong?
We spent hours.
Listening carefully, Mark, so it's okay.
Excellent. Well tutored there. So and so your mentors were doing the inquiries alongside them as well, and then you were sharing the inquiries.
Oh, so this is really, really good. we set up a formal share. So we had the LP team, we had a deputy head, we had myself, and then the mentors decided that they wanted to come to support their ECTs, but also to drop in with their ideas at the end of when we were having part of our questions. And I invited the ECT ones to come and see what the ECT2s were doing. So it was a room full of people, and it was only supposed to be a few. And then they were nervous, but it really validated that what they were doing was important. And then the LP team was so struck, they felt so inspired by what they were seeing, and how these ECTs had really taken the inquiry questions seriously and found something to change their practice moving forward, and how it was influencing moving into the department. So our maths teacher looked at how effective are retrieval questions in improving student grades, and had done a whole load of research, had taken it to his faculty meetings, and now they're going to cascade that out to the whole department. So he can instantly see, oh, this is important. But as part of his inquiry at the end, when he was evaluating it, he said, next year I'm going to look at this, this and this. And I thought that's interesting, because you don't have to do an inquiry question next year, but it was their own need to think, okay, actually, this is a good way of doing it. When I move forward, I'm going to tweak this in my practice and tweak this in my practice. And then we shared, the LP team then shared their inquiry questions and what they'd taken from it in a staff forum, so in a staff briefing, and congratulated them openly, because we are about celebrating what our ECTs are doing and raising the profile of it. And we did frame it under the ECF. So this is what the ECF is for, and it's about that positive messaging as well. And this is what our staff have achieved being part of the ECF. You wouldn't get this anywhere else. And I think that was really, I felt inspired. I remember sitting there thinking, oh wow, this is amazing.
Practitioners, learning from the teachers. Yeah.
I mean, we're thinking about how can we now look at what they've done and get them to lead on inquiry projects next year for others. And I've asked for my own inquiry project for the ECT, for my own inquiry group for ECT2, so that I've got that extra time to invest in them with their mentors next year, because I didn't do that this year, and that's something that I've learned and I'm going to take forward. But it's evolving, and I think the more we do it, the more impact we see, and we can showcase, the more schools will see the benefit of this. And this is what we want. We want staff who are professionally curious, who want to develop in their profession, and want to make change happen. And we want them to be excited about the profession in the way that we know that they can be. And I think this is the vehicle to do it with. That's my personal opinion.
No, I think that's absolutely right. And as an induction tutor, we have our role, which is to ensure that everyone's doing what they need to be doing, and monitoring the different aspects of the programme, that the ECT is getting the diet that they should be getting. But what I do in my mentor meetings, in my meetings with my ECT, especially in year 2, I start asking about the inquiry, finding out how they're getting on with it, and you can really tell that their mentors are invested in those inquiries, really supporting them around those questions, guiding them when it comes to the evidence. And I think as a facilitator, we spend a lot of time talking about not sort of trying to, we're always thinking about the workload, and encouraging our ECTs to use naturally occurring data, and all these things, and it's just so great to see that going on in those mentor meetings from what the ECTs are telling me. And then what I also do is I particularly recently, where I've asked my ECTs, how's your presentation to your mentor gone, and a few said, oh yeah, I'm presenting to the department, and that's exactly what you want. I mean, that's what the conversations I've had informally, I've had those conversations, you must come and present, and I have had a couple of ECTs present to our professional studies group, which was fantastic. But what was so nice to see is that it was happening naturally, and that showed that investment in their ECT's inquiry, and the fact that they're wanting to support their ECT. Very often the mentor is also within the department, so there's so much that can be shared and within the department and learned, and that's why it's even more important for us to share it across to school as well. So that's something that we really support at Mulberry Academy Shoreditch, is that sharing. And I know it's something I mentioned at the very beginning, even for us as induction tutors, when we come to this event like today, that Tessa, you organise it, looking to sort of learn from others. And I think it's the same for ECTs, the opportunity to learn from each other's inquiries, and ensure that we are making progress within our own schools, and driving certain things through. And anyway, I could be talking about it for a long time, but
I love the way you said that was starting to happen naturally as well, because I'm going to come back to what we were talking about this morning about making something not just possible but likely. It sounds like at both your schools it's incredibly likely that ECTs are going to feel that passion about inquiring, incredibly likely that they're going to gain a great deal of satisfaction. So at your schools it's not just possible, it's likely, and that's because of the culture that you've created as induction tutors, I think.
I'd say not just likely, but unavoidable.
They'll be on your back for that. So they've been really part of that culture, but it goes beyond that, doesn't it? And I'm thinking about, we've got with us 2 exceptional induction tutors who are invested in fantastic professional learning cultures. And I think it's worth recognising that not every school culture is like that, and the work we all have to do in recognising where our induction tutors are and some of the constraints that exist on their work. And I think that's why today is important, because we can hear these fantastic models and people can be inspired, a little bit intimidated, but hopefully inspired and take ideas, but also recognise the impact they could have and the work that it can have. So all that work you've done in terms of ensuring, your head teachers, the line managers, phase leaders, heads of department understand this and are seeing those positive messages is really important part of it, isn't it? In terms of sort of leveraging the impact and seeing yourselves as those leaders of teacher development and teacher educators in your own right. And I think that's really exciting, because actually when we think about pathways of professional learning, we want our experienced teachers as well to recognise those opportunities for their leadership development. Actually, that if you conceive yourself as you clearly do as leaders of teacher development, as teacher educators in your own right, that's a professional pathway for you too. You don't necessarily need to be head of year or progress deputy headship. We want you both to be head teachers, but this is also important work too. I think that's really important. But the school's invested in you as well. So I know, for example, Saiqua has quite a lot of leadership time directed to this work, and Lara's obviously working with 25 ECTs next year. So they are in a very particular position. I think we need to sort of listeners who are maybe not in that context think about what are the little steps to
and there's some
support that.
induction tutors, and I think you had some today who are doing this for the first time, or they might have just one ECT and they didn't have one last year, so they're not developing habits around leading induction or making the best out of a program because they've not had a chance to do that. And so, I think you're absolutely right to shine a light on those differences, and that will be recognised, I think, by other people listening to this podcast. But one of the things I was saying earlier, wasn't it, about what we know about the importance of a pro-growth, a professional growth culture in a school, and that combination of that with a program such as ours can really make a difference to the satisfaction of ECTs and their intentions to stay in teaching. But I think I presented this professional growth culture as something pre-existing in the school. I think what we're hearing from Saiqua and Lara, and what we heard from others today during conference, is that you can create that professional growth culture. It's not something that just has to pre-exist. You can make that happen alongside a program such as this. I think that's important to remember that as well, as tough as it is. And I was going to say, Tessa, if you were thinking about those induction tutors perhaps who aren't as lucky as Lara and aren't as lucky as Saiqua, having the kind of opportunities that they have and the experience that they have, are there 1 or 2 things that you would want those less experienced or less lucky induction tutors, 1 or 2 bits of advice you'd give them?
I think for me, at a very sort of basic level, it's about understanding the statutory induction guidance, because actually that's a powerful lever for professional learning. I mean, I know it sounds like it's about a minimum entitlement, but actually if we get those bits right and we see within there that a commitment to regular high quality mentoring, so that you need to ensure those mentors are supported and that they have the capacity and expertise to have that role. You've got that time to engage in the professional learning. The mentor meetings are within the school day. That I think that can be very powerful. So when I talk to it's often mentors who say they don't have the time, they're not being supported at a school level to do this, perhaps because the induction tutor doesn't have they don't see themselves as being in that powerful position. They don't feel they've got agency to create the right conditions for mentoring. Actually, the statutory induction guidance and the role of the appropriate body can be very powerful there. And I think that will become easier next year as we transition, obviously, to teaching school hubs, who are often delivery partners, particularly within our region, to have that quality assurance role. Because where we have concerns about the mentoring not being there, or the induction tutor not having the support of the head teacher in their role, actually we can draw back on that. So that sounds negative. I think it's about a balance, isn't it? We've created really, I think, hopefully positive professional conversations today to kind of inspire and share and create those networks and those communities where induction tutors can learn from each other and seek support, but also remembering that this is supported by legislation and by an entitlement.
Yeah, and I think that word entitlement's exactly that. It is an entitlement, and that does mean that ECTs deserve it, and that is behind the programme as well. We think they deserve this programme of development. Hard to believe, but I know you two also wear different hats as well, so you do even more than just your induction tutor role. I know you're also facilitators on the programme as well. So thinking about your hat as a facilitator now, how would you support ECTs through practitioner inquiry in your facilitated sessions?
So as a facilitator, we support ICTs by reminding them of the inquiry process. I mean, that's part of the programme, which Mark, you've designed.
Watched you do it.
And watched me do it. But I think what's really strong is that at every beginning of every session, we go over what does the inquiry process look like, so they have a really clear understanding of the different stages. We give them an opportunity as well to review where they're at in their inquiries. So every session, at least the last two modules, we have an opportunity at the beginning for them to sort of talk about what they've learned so much. And again, I think that's really important to their learning. We look at aspects of the inquiry. I think I mentioned data collection earlier, naturally occurring data, all sorts of things that again would support them in their inquiry. But I think ultimately, it's the resources that allow us as facilitators to support this high quality practitioner inquiry. And so that's thanks to you, Mark.
So there's national, and I think Saiqua may find this more hard to answer because Saiqua's working with year one mentors, so actually hasn't come onto the inquiry. But I think a lot of the things you've been talking about in terms of your support of mentors within school would tap into this, I think.
Yeah, I think I've done a lot of work in school with mentors. Yes. I did get excited when I got to introduce the year two inquiry project at the last facilitator conference. Of course. And then I think that was really nice because staff came up to me at the end and they said, "Oh, really? What did you do here? What did you do? We did this. We did this." And I was like, "Wow." And a lot of them I saw today and they were like, "Oh, hi, do you recognise me?" And I was like, "Yeah, what did you do here?" So I think it is about, and we shared contact details. So now we can talk to each other in different schools and find out what we're doing for inquiry projects and work together if we need to. I think the key message is to make sure that the mentors feel empowered enough to support their ECTs, and the ECTs are clear about what they're doing, and to know that it's okay not to have a perfect question, but it's a process and they have to go through the process, but actually there is a long-term benefit and they will take something from this. And I think that's important. And to know that the ECF is there to support them and they can dip into parts of the ECF. They're not just going to go away and do a completely separate inquiry. They can, and I said this to my mentors and my mentee and the ECTs, I said, go back to the ECF. Was there a particular aspect that particularly excited you? Was there something that engaged you? Or was there something that you weren't quite sure of? Is there something about your practice you want to change? Can you marry the two up and use this opportunity to develop that? So it is quite an interesting way of doing it. But I think you as the induction tutor need to know your staff, need to know the context, and need to have a good understanding, unfortunately, of the ECF, so that you can help support and direct them. But I mean, you do get a good idea once you start going through it with your mentors. You start going through it with the ECTs. I don't know it like Tessa knows it. Tessa can probably recite every ECF part. Right. But it's really quite well, it helps you develop as an individual and it helps you make links, and it helps you to support them, I think. So it's quite inspirational.
Also, as a facilitator, I mean, I mentioned a lot around sort of supporting one another, sharing, reviewing, but actually we need to challenge them. And you know, that's something that that really came to light. In fact, when you came to see us, Mark, you came to observe our session and gave some really good ideas and tweaks around how we can support that idea around challenging, getting them to challenge each other. And I think that's something really important about, you know, if you're a facilitator, you know, you can follow the program, but actually it's about getting them to ask each other those questions that really gets them to think outside the box sometimes. I thought that was really good feedback. And that's something that my colleague and I, you know, Dan and I implemented after that.
Yeah, I think as a facilitator, one of the things you've got to remember is you're offering something that they may not be getting in school. So they may be in schools that don't have a tradition of action inquiry or practitioner inquiry in the schools. The mentors may not feel very skilled at supporting that. And so, you know, the facilitators, we have an opportunity with a program like this. Any school which is part of a full induction program with us has the access to well-trained facilitators who really understand the program, who are passionate about inquiry as a method of professional learning. So it's quite a big thing to take that into to ECTs and to mentors and as you say, maybe disturb them a little bit, you know, challenge them a little bit.
Each other's devil's advocate.
Curious friends.
Curious
ECL conference. One thing I thought was really powerful that we'll definitely do next year as well is that joint session early on. So where the mentor and the ECT work together on that first inquiry question. And I think everyone felt at that point, well, we haven't been through this, we don't quite know what we're doing, and it felt risky. And some ECTs and mentors felt overwhelmed in that first half term. They felt they needed to do everything, you know, the full cycle, you know, grapple with each of the teacher standards, you know, the whole module in 6 weeks, as well as work out all the new class names and, you know, work out where their books are and get the shape of their new classroom sorted, etc. And actually, I think this year we'll be able to support them through that a lot better in terms of managing those expectations, because it was a lot of kind of myth busting was required, wasn't it?
I think exactly. Practitioner can be a bit like Marmite if we don't challenge those misconceptions, because it can be completely the transformational experience you're describing in your schools. But if people do have those misconceptions that they've somehow got to write a big long essay or they've got to cover everything in 6 weeks, then it does become a burden to workload. And I think so part of the role of a facilitator and induction tutor, and we also want our mentors to do it, is to be challenging those misconceptions and making sure that practitioner inquiry is something that supports workload, in the sense that actually it shouldn't be an addition. ECT should be using it to address a problem of practice they already have. You know, how do I motivate these three year 9 students that I've got to motivate? Well, it's a methodology you can apply to help you solve problems you already have, not an addition. I think that messaging is hugely important.
It's a way of growing, you know, it's a model of professional learning, or I'm trying to get the word.
A mindset.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of inquiry mindset, isn't it? Yeah. And that's, once people start to understand that, rather than it's a thing to do, but it's an approach to your practice and your learning, becomes very powerful. And that's why it's so helpful, isn't it, to go through it 3 times, you know, because you know, like anything, we're repeating it, aren't we, and practicing it and getting better actually at the inquiry process in itself. And one of the things the materials does really well is support them to think about the process. And there's those review questions which encourage them to think very carefully about, what did you learn about the process of inquiry from the last module? How is that going to shape your inquiry this half term? Which is key. And we're really lucky, because a lot of beginning teachers coming through having experienced that model of professional learning within their initial teacher education. So, you know, those on the UCL PGC will say, you know, we've done this before.
Those school studies.
That's it. And it's great if they've got those positive experiences, hopefully, and then they're applying it within a new context.
And then you'll have people, like you said, Saiqua, who just naturally go on to do another inquiry as they go into the 3rd year of teaching. And you never even prompted them to do it, but that's why they think that they have to learn and continue to learn that way.
I think it's really important. And like you said, my mentors were really overwhelmed, and so were my ECTs when they first started. And it was about sitting down and decoding for them, what does this mean on the ground? What is it all about? Why are you doing it? And it's another thing, another layer that they're asking us to do to qualify. And it was like, no, actually, there is deep-rooted meaning to what we're asking you to do. And then when they'd gone through it, the excitement of, oh my God, this is the value of doing something like this, and this is actually a skill, and I'm going to take this forward and I'm going to develop. And having them then talk to the new ECT ones that are going into ECT, becoming ECT2s, to kind of demystify it for them, and say to them, we were there and we know how hard it can be. And the programme is set up beautifully to go back and review the questions and give them opportunities to think about the process. It's not just you have to do it and then move on to do this. It is developmental. It's not just discrete. But you do, as an induction tutor, have to create that culture in your own school. It doesn't.
Very soon, especially if you've got so many ECTs as you have, Lara, very soon you're going to have ECTs from 2 or 3 years ago being your mentors.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's happening next year.
Really?
Currently,
How exciting is that?
And what's so exciting is that they are excited. And I told them, by the way, we'd love you to be a mentor. And honestly, that's sort of beaming. Oh, this is brilliant. I get to be on the other side, and now that I'm at the programme. And
that's right.
No, it's been really nice to see that.
So you must have some favourite questions that some of your ECTs have been doing. So they presented them to you, or they maybe because they're just really good questions, or because of the impact you could see it had on those individuals or on others in the school?
For me, probably because this one in particular, because I work closely with this teacher, amazing teacher, French and Spanish teacher. He and I share a year 13 class, but his inquiry wasn't around year 13. Really, it was around sort of year 9. But he's a fellow language teacher, and his question was, to what extent does providing students with a choice of support improve progress and motivation in writing tasks? Now, he presented to the language department, the faculty, and it was just such a pleasure to sit there and listen. And he'd prepared this PowerPoint, and it was very, very interesting to see how the impact that's had as a result. So as a result of that, he and I have been given an activity, a task to do as gain time. We've got to create a poster looking at the different milestones to reach. So as a motivator for students who, to want to get to a certain level in their writing and be really clear on how to progress in writing through the different stages. And it immediately reminded me of the UCL, the picture where you've got the sort of the road, and the different
map.
Absolutely. So we're going to go away and create something with those different milestones of writing, sort of gives those students, an idea, because it's all around motivation in the end. I mean, that was essentially the outcome of his piece, was the fact that we needed to increase motivation in our language learners so that they feel motivated to write in French or Spanish.
It's really nice that he's focused on motivation as well, because that can sometimes get lost, I think, when ECTs are applying the framework. They sometimes forget about motivation and how important it is. So I'm really pleased that one of your ECTs has looked at that. And I love the way that you got a piece of homework from
my one is around, I've got 2 that actually struck a chord. One was with one of my English teachers, and she's been struggling with providing opportunities that engage and help students to retain things in their long-term memory, specifically to SEND students. And she focused on how effective are 3 discourse markers to help 3 specific students in her English lessons, because it was something that she was struggling with and she wanted to develop for herself. And as she went through the process and tweaked it and looked at the students' work and then realised it wasn't successful and then tweaked it again, you could really see her confidence developing as the students showed that they were really engaging with what she was doing for them, and she was using these 3 discourse markers and how she was using them and applying them, and how their work was being transformed. So you saw her feeling more confident in her practice and the students being more confident in what they were doing. So it almost became a mutual relationship of, well, this is actually quite good because I'm helping you and I'm helping myself. And she's now going to use it whole department and introduce it whole department. So that was quite positive. The second one was about the retrieval questions in improving student grades. And he really struggled at the beginning with his inquiry question. He wanted to do something whole school. It was just like, no, in your classroom, in your practice. Very ambitious in terms of what he wanted to achieve. I was like, one thing that you can take away, that you can change, that will make your practice better. And now he's gone through creating all these different types of grids and looking at the most effective way of engaging students and seeing how students can actually make progress through these activities. And he's introducing them to start in September across the whole department. So that's he's implementing that. And again, he was very against doing this inquiry project. He was like, oh, this is another thing that they're asking us to do. We're jumping through hoops, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I don't think you are. Let's give it a go. And he's my best advocate for it right now. And I had him speak to staff, and I had him speak to other members of the LP team and the leadership team, and he was really engaging them. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wish I could have go back in time and give you a hologram of yourself speaking right now. So yeah, those were the two things that particularly stood out for me.
I think we need to get him into the staff room.
Definitely need to get him something. It's really interesting that he started off so reluctant but has now become an advocate of it, and probably speaks to the impact of suddenly realizing that you can develop and you can have an influence on others, and how nice for an ECT to be able to influence the rest of their department and have that voice. So many things to talk about, but I'm conscious that you all have to get back to your busy school lives. So we have a tradition for the staff room that when we get to the end of our conversations, we hand you all a post-it note. Here you are. And on that post-it note, you can write anything you want, and you can stick that post-it note anywhere you want. So you might decide to stick the post-it note on Mark's desk when he's writing the content, or my desk, or in the toilets of a school, on an ECT's desk, wherever you like. So, Saiqua, can I start with you? What would you put on your post-it note, and where would you stick it?
Start small. Start small. Don't be afraid, and be ready to challenge, I think.
And where would you stick it?
In front of my desk and every ECT's desk.
So note to yourself.
Note to myself, note to my mentors, note to my ECTs, and then keep reminding them that you can start really, really small, especially as the programme. I can be ambitious for the programme, but it's the small things, it's the statutory things, are all the key things in place right now. I want to be ambitious. What can I do next? All right, what do you want to achieve in your ECT year? Let's start small and do it. As a mentor, what do you want to achieve? Start small. So it's that kind of a reminder. That's what I'd say.
So start small. Yeah, a good reminder. Lara?
Mine would say share your inquiry. I think that is, they get to the end of the second year, they've done all this work around inquiry and they've learnt a lot from it, and we could all learn from them. And I think this is absolutely essential that we learn from them, our departments learn from them. And so it's a big share, and that share would go everywhere around the school, obviously on my desk as well, just a reminder to my, to me to make sure that they are sharing with their departments and with the school, but yeah, it would be absolutely everywhere.
That's good. And that's a nice easy word to put on a post-it.
Memorable.
Yeah. Tessa?
I think mine would be for head teachers and school leaders, and I'd be thinking about recognising an investment in early career teacher development is actually an investment in transforming professional cultures within their school. So we've heard today, haven't we, about the way these inquiry projects are spilling out into lead practitioner impact, into being shared at a department level. We've talked about ECTs being excited about becoming mentors, so we can see the way that actually a programme designed for early career teachers is having a transformative effect on those cultures within schools. And when we think about recruitment and retention of our of a brilliant workforce, actually this programme is having that impact. Has the potential to have the impact at every level. Yeah.
Oh wow! So we actually have a bell. So and that's telling us we need to get out. Even the Mulberry and Bigland Green Centre has its own bell. Who would have known it?
Yeah.
Look, it's been inspirational for us. It's very unusual for us to be able to go in to actual teachers and not have this virtual ECF staff. And so we're really, really delighted. So thank you, Saiqua. Thank you, Lara. Thank you, Tessa, for the time you've given us today. And we look forward to the next conference you organise for us. So we'll be sure to come.
And thank you for your contributions today.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to Tessa Blair, Deputy Director of the East London Teaching School Hub, Lara Boyer, Induction Tutor at Mulberry Academy, Shoreditch, and Saiqua Zaneb, Induction Tutor at Central Foundation School for Girls in Tower Hamlets. Lara and Saiqua are also facilitators on our ECF programme. We thank them for inviting us into their staff room and sharing a coffee with us.
Please do get in touch with us if you'd like to talk to us about your ECF experience. We especially want to hear from a range of voices. And lastly, we hope you'll join us next time for a biscuit and a chat with another colleague in the ECF staff room.
Thanks so much for downloading and listening to this IOE podcast.